Welcome to the next lesson on Metabolic Dominion. In the previous lesson, I talked about the foods you should be avoiding for higher hormonal production, specifically looking at it from a lens of protective hormones and keeping the stress hormones low. By the way, if you're new to this, I recommend starting with lesson 1. There's a playlist on this, and also getting the ebook on Metabolic Dominion completely free. There's a link down below. And so far, we've went through the introduction. I've went through chapter 1, how hormones control everything. Chapter 2, top foods to boost hormones. And previous, like I mentioned, foods that kill hormones. And in today's video, I'll be going over the 2 numbers you should be tracking to understand whether you're moving forward or backwards. One of the sayings from Albert Einstein is, insanity is doing the same thing constantly and expecting different results. And what gets measured gets accomplished. What gets measured gets managed. Random action leads to random results. These all quotes are important because when you actually measure your progress rightly, you will have a deeper understanding whether the action you're putting in is reaping results. The last thing you want to do is putting in so much effort, taking actions, sacrificing your time, effort, and not really making sure you're moving forward, you're getting results. When it comes to fat loss, when it comes to building muscle, you can track on a weighing scale if your weight's going down, going up, or in the gym, are you getting stronger according to your weight, so on and so forth. When it comes to hormones, sure, you can get a blood test, you can do all of these different tests to gauge where your hormones are at. But when it comes to that, it's an annoying process. It costs a lot of money, especially if you want to check the entire picture and you want to do it consistently. And there's a lot of variables to consider, like with men, if you get a blood test done at 7 a.m. versus 8 a.m., it can make a difference to your results. Did you have a shitty day the day before that? So on and so forth. But with tracking your temperature and heart rate, which are the 2 numbers I'll be going over right now, is something you can do right now. And you can track it and see exactly, it's a mirror picture of what's going on inside your body. So one of the byproducts of a high metabolic rate when it comes to protective hormones is a high temperature and heart rate. And I'm going to show you exactly also determine whether the high heart rate is coming from a protective metabolic rate or high stress hormones, because high stress hormones can make you feel like hot flashes, like women when they go through menopause, things like that. So I'm going to exactly show you how to determine between the 2. And yes, so let's get into it. So Metabolic Dominion Part 5, track your hormones with these 2 numbers. Bible verse Luke 12:2. There's nothing covered that shall be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. So let's get into it. You don't need expensive labs or complicated apps to know if your metabolism is working. You only need 2 things. Number 1, a digital thermometer, whatever thermometer you decide to use to track your temperature, and a watch and a timer to track your heart rate. So you can easily, put your fingers there, look at tutorials online if you don't know exactly how to do it. And let's say you track your temperature, your heart rate for 15 seconds, and you get, let's say, 20 beats. There's 60 seconds in a minute. So 15 seconds times 4, that means your heart rate is 80 beats per minute. If you're confused about that, you don't know maths or whatever, just count it for the 60 seconds. You'll get a reading, or use a calculator. And with a thermometer, you just put it under your armpit, or the best ones are under your armpit. Leave it there, and then you track it. And instantly, you get an image of what's going on inside your body. By checking your body temperature and pulse rate, you can see if your body is running on energy, thyroid, or stress, cortisol. So body temperature. A healthy metabolism produces heat. If you're always cold, sluggish, or slow to warm up, your thyroid might be underperforming. And just a caveat, this is why a lot of people have addictions to running or going to the gym or doing excessive things, because they're constantly in this depressed, cold state. And when they actually get moving, they get some caffeine, the metabolism's going, and they actually are in a state where a healthy person is constantly in. You hear this all the time, especially with gym bros. Oh, I just don't feel like doing anything. I'm demotivated, but gym time is the only time I feel good. That's a sign that you're running on stress hormones, or you're just in this depressive state. And the gym, when you're amped up on pre-workouts, that's the only time you actually feel good. But you can do this naturally by boosting the metabolic rate. I remember when I was 17, 18, 19, I was addicted to the gym. Because of that, I needed that to feel good, you know? Next, how to check. Take your oral temperature or under your armpit in the morning before getting out of bed. Take it again around midday, between 12 to 2 p.m. You can also do it before going to sleep. You can do it many different times. You can do it in the morning, before breakfast, after breakfast, lunchtime, before lunch, after lunch. And the main thing you're looking at is the pattern and how your body is before you eat and after you eat. I'll get into that more in a bit. So a healthy range is 97.8 to 98.2 Fahrenheit. Midday temp, 98.6, 99.0. With Celsius, that's about 36.4 to 37 degrees Celsius, and being more around 37 throughout the day, midday, and it's maintained, right? The spikes in emotions, the feeling, the motivation, that's from your metabolic rate is all over the place. If your temperatures are constantly below 97.8 or 36.4 degrees Celsius, there's a strong sign your metabolism is suppressed. Also a caveat, I don't know exactly what that is in Celsius, these numbers, but I know the ranges, it's around 36.4 and 37 if someone's double checking exactly what it is. Pulse rate. Your pulse reflects how hard your heart has to work to circulate energy and oxygen. How to check. Find your pulse, wrist or neck, count beats for 15 seconds, then multiply by 4 for beats per minute. Do this right after checking your temperature. Healthy range, morning pulse 70 to 85, midday pulse 75 to 90. If your pulse is constantly in the low 60s or below, especially with cold hands and feet or fatigue, that may signal hypothyroidism or adrenal stress. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, but I thought a low heart rate is a sign of good health. One thing I recommend doing is checking or just looking at it from your own lens. When are you the healthiest? When is the metabolic rate the highest? It's when you're a child. This is when you learn quickly, when you learn languages quickly. One of the signs of a high, good, protective metabolic state is you learn things easy. Language is easy to learn. This is why older people, it's very hard for them you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's harder for older individuals to learn new language. It gets harder. And yeah, so like when you're a child, then Google, what is a child's heart rate? It's around there, 90 to 100. When it's a baby, 110 to 130. And it's a sign of a high metabolism from protective range. That's the key. Most people, when they have a high heart rate, it's from a stress state. So people already define that, oh, a higher heart rate, that's bad. But it's like the IQ distribution curve. It's like, which one is it? Is it the good side or the bad side? And it's same with your heart rate and temperature. Is it coming from a protective range? This is when you feel good, motivated. One thing I recommend checking is when you feel good, motivated, not from a stress state, but like calm, you're not amped up and you feel good, your mindset is in a good state, check where your temperature is at, check what your pulse rate is, and you'll see it's probably in that range. So track your progress, simple method. Each morning and midday, note down the following: your temperature and your pulse rate. For example, on Monday, to the AM, morning, evening, and you can check it like that. And you can pay attention to the pattern. Is the temperature increasing as I'm applying those things? Is it decreasing? If you have more numbers, like let's say morning, midday, evening, you have a greater understanding. I know some Apple Watches, Aura rings, they track those things as well. So you can have a consistent track of where it's going. And the thing that I mentioned before and after you have food, when you wake up, you might be in that protective range on paper, 90 beats per minute and whatever, 37 degrees Celsius. On paper, it looks good. But let's say you have some food and also maybe you don't feel as good and the temperature decreases. That was a sign that your metabolism was driven by stress, and consuming foods that shut down the stress response actually got you into a better relaxed state. That's why a lot of people, they rather skip breakfast, intermittent fasting, because they feel better, and because when they have a breakfast, they want to go back to sleep. The problem is not you having breakfast. The problem is that you're waking up in a stress state. And when you're having food, it decreases that stress state and you're able to actually relax and go to sleep. When you're in a protective state, you might wake up in that 70, 85 beats per minute. You have some food and it increases more to 75 to 90 beats per minute. And it should maintain that like that throughout the day. And it's just normal and stable, just like when you were a child. So that's what you should be paying attention to, what the temperature and heart rate is before food, after food, and paying attention to those changes, right? And perceive, think, act, apply things into your routine that will change your reaction. If you're constantly waking up in a stress state in the morning, it could be your liver. You're not storing enough liver glycogen to sustain you throughout the night. You're in a caloric deficit. You're not eating enough. Maybe there's some micronutrient deficiencies. From that point, you can assess. And then from here, maybe you can do some blood work to pinpoint, but it's not mandatory. If you check your temperature and heart rate and you apply the things that I mentioned in this book and you start getting results, there's no need to spend money on expensive lab work, right? But yeah, do this for a week. You'll quickly see if your body is moving towards or away from hormonal health. If your temperature and pulse are rising, your metabolism is coming back online. If they stay low, it's time to increase the pro-metabolic foods and lower the stressors. Another thing you want to pay attention to is the changes that are being met depending on your environment. If you're living in a hot country, in a cold country, I wouldn't define as 80 beats per minute is the gold standard. Look at the change. Because, I don't know, your temperature, just you as an individual, the readings are different. You want to look at the differences that are occurring once you start applying the changes. Maybe your heart rate is 70 beats per minute. Is it getting to the 80? Some might be in the 80, getting to 90. So I wouldn't be discouraged if, but my heart rate is in the 70s, I got it to 80, but I want to be like the big boys or whatever. You have some complex or maybe even insecurity because you want to be at the 90s because then you'll be complete. No, look at the changes that you've made and the progress you've made and how you feel. I've seen this with guys. They might have good testosterone levels, but the symptoms still say otherwise, and even temperature and heart rate. So the main thing you want to pay attention to is temperature, heart rate, your caloric intake, and the symptoms that you're experiencing, and go based off of that. Also body composition, things like that, and move forward with that. Here's some quotes. Changes in body temperature are associated with significant changes in metabolic rate, so metabolism, speed of chemical reactions, and this could be associated with metabolic rate increasing from stress hormones or protective hormones. Temperature and pulse are controlled by the thyroid, the mitochondria, and your body's overall energy availability. They reflect your cellular engine speed. Resting metabolic rate is largely regulated by thyroid hormones. Thyroid hormones have direct chronotropic effects on the heart that are independent of the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic meaning stress system. A fall in body temperature occurs during starvation, contributing to the decrease in metabolic rate. So it usually happens like that. There's a good heart rate temperature coming from protective hormones, then it'll decrease, and then it's like the IQ distribution, right? Protective hormones, then it'll go back into depression mode, and then this is where it kicks into hyperthyroidism or just really high stress hormones. You're running on cortisol, adrenaline, you're just keyed up, you might seem like you have a lot of energy, your TSH might look good, but it's suppressed due to stress hormones. So it's like, it's that switch, right? And then when you start recovering, you might still go through phases of sporadic energy, depression, you could say. Or if you're keyed up a lot and you apply the changes that I've recommended, removing problematic foods and eating protective foods, you might go through a phase of, I just feel down and just neutral, asexual in some cases. It's because you're healing, right? You've maintained your metabolism from stress hormones, and now you're applying things to decrease the stress hormones, but yet you're not in a state that your protective hormones are taking over yet. So you need to go through that switch over phase, you could say. Measuring basal body temperature is a good way to evaluate thyroid function, and this can be done easily at home. When the thyroid functions normally, the body's cells produce energy at a proper rate. A rise in temperature of 1 degree Celsius increases metabolic rate by 10 to 13%. So those two numbers are very important and give you a picture around what's going on. And this is super important because in the health sphere, everything's like up in the air, like there's no direct measurement, like building muscle and gym. Okay, your bench is going up. There's a clear, like you can measure the success, right? And in health, you don't really have it. Sure, you can get blood tests done, but it's all up in the air. But with this, it gives you clarity. It gives you comfort of the effort that you're putting in reaps results. And by measuring, it gives you the confidence that what you're doing is making progress, not making progress. You can try things, or like, oh, I'm just going to include 50 grams of honey more this week, and I'm going to see how that affects. And you can test things, experiment. And this gives you freedom around, you could say, of trying things. And I think it's very good for people to apply. And hopefully this gave you some valuable information and gives you clarity around how to move forward, how to see if you're making progress. And I'll see you in the next lesson. And by the way, don't forget to download the ebook if you want to continue on your own, or share with friends, or give it to someone who you think will benefit from this, the simplicity of this. And God bless, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Peace.